and welcome back to the next video. In today's video we will see how to create a REST API with Spring Boot, and we will use Postgres DB as our database. So yeah, let's get started. So what you will have to do first is you will have to go to start.spring.io, and here you can choose, like I have kept everything as default. Like at the time of this recording, Spring Boot 3.2.2 is the latest, and I'm using Gradle Groovy, and I'm here using Java as the programming language. If you want to change the group as well as the artifact, you can change it. Packaging, I have kept it as jar. I'm using Java 17, and here in add dependency you will have to add these 4 dependencies. Like just click on add dependency and search for Spring Boot Dev Tools, Postgres SQL driver, Spring Web and JDBC API. Then just click on generate. It will create a zip file for you. Just unzip it and install it in VS Code. So first of all, I will show you what kind of REST APIs which we are creating. So here you can see, first I have a localhost /API/user/create, and it takes a first name. And once you create, click on the first name. So I'll just enter some new name. Then it creates a user for us. So here it, as you can see, it has created a user, and I have also created a get API to fetch all the users. So if I just click on send over here, you can see that it has fetched the latest user which we had created. So first, once you open the project inside Xcode, inside VS Code, so we are done with this. Next, you can also install Java and Spring Boot extensions for VS Code, so that will help you with all the code intelligence and formatting, all that kind of stuff. Next, you will have to go to application.properties, and here you will have to add spring.datasource.url JDBC : so this should be your Postgres URL, which will help us to point to the Postgres database. So I'm using NeonDB. So if you want, you can just create a free Postgres database on NeonDB. It does not require credit card or debit card. There are other services as well, like you can just create a Postgres database locally, or if you want, you can use something like Elephant SQL or Cockroach DB. Also they provide free Postgres database without credit card or debit card registration. So if you are curious, you can use that. Then just pass your username and password as well over here. So this will inform the Postgres driver which we have installed that these are all the credentials for our Postgres database. Don't try to use this because these are dummy credentials. Next, what you will have to do is you will have to add this course thing. So inside your application, so go to src main java com example. So my project name is first, and inside that this is first application.java. So over here, so I'll just minimize all this stuff for now so that you guys don't get confused. So in first application.java, just add this @bean. So this is just for disabling core so that any client can access our APIs. So that's what this is. Okay, so again, this is like boilerplate code which we have to write. Next, here make sure you run this query of creating a table inside your Postgres database. So this will run our Postgres data. So this will create table inside our Postgres database. I have kept it simple, like it just has a user ID and a first name. But if you want to add, you can add more properties as well. Next, we have to create a domain. So create a folder called domain. Inside that I have created user.java, and as you can see over here, it has an user ID and a first name. So I have just created constructor for it, and I have also created getters and setters for that as well. Next, we have to create a repository. So create a folder called repository. Inside that create first user repository.java, and it has 3 methods: one for creating a user, second for finding the user by its ID, and third for getting all the users. And I have also created this exception class. So if you see, in case anything goes wrong, so I have created a custom exception class which extends runtime exception, and that will give us an error inside our code. Okay, so once that is done, you can come back to your user repositories.java. So these are the 3 methods. Then we create another implementation class which implements the user repository, and this is the first method for creating a user or inserting user inside our database. This is for getting user from its ID. Okay, and this is for getting all the users. So first I have added this annotation of @repository. Then you will have to auto wire this for JDBC template as well. So here we are overriding the create method, which takes the first name because the id is auto generated. So we have to use key holder, and we have to use this JDBC template dot update. And here you can send your prepared statements where we will send our SQL underscore create, and we have to write statement dot return generated keys, and the first parameter which we are setting is the first name. Okay, once that is done, just close your key holder, and we get convert this string from string to integer. So we'll get the user id of the user. Once we get that, we can so there is this another method which we are overriding, which takes an integer, and again we are using JDBC template dot query for object SQL find by id, and we are just passing the user row mapper, which you can see over here. So this row mapper which I have created, and we just pass the user id to the JDBC template, which will help us to get back the user. And for getting all the users, we just have to write JDBC template dot query SQL find all user, and this is our user row mapper. Okay, so that's it on the user repository side. Let's see what's the next step. Next, we have also created exception. Next is services. So go to your services, create a file called user service.java. Again, this is very similar to repository, but we are following proper pattern which is recommended by Spring Boot. So again, here we have to create two methods, create user as well as get all users. And if you see the create user method, so you have to create another class called for the implementation, which implements the user service, and we have marked it as service class, and it is transactional as well. Then we are auto wiring user repository. So once the create user first name method is called, so we are just calling user repository dot create, which internally calls this, if you remember, this method which we have defined it inside our user repository, and it gets us the user id, and from that user id we call the find by id, which again has been defined in the user repository, which will help us to fetch the particular user. Now for getting all the user, you just call user repository dot get all users. The next step which we have to do is for resource, which will help us to map the API endpoints. So if you go to resource, user resource.java, first you have to mark it as @REST controller. Then the request mapping, I have kept it as /API/user, but you can keep it anything, whatever you feel like. And here we are auto wiring user service class. Okay, and if you see, we are creating this for create user, and the create user first only takes the first name. From that we are calling the create user of our service class. Once we do that, we are just putting all these values inside inside a hash map, and then returning it back to the user or the API. So that's how we do this. And for getting all the user, again here you see I have kept it as empty, because as soon as I hit this API endpoint, and if it is a get request, I am getting all the users. So we are calling get all users of our service class. Then we are creating an array list. We are looping over to that array list and adding all the id as well as name to our map, and then we are adding the user map to our list of maps, and then again returning that data back to the API. Now to run this, you can just click on this button, and it will automatically run our Java application. And even if you make any changes, it automatically reloads our server, so we don't have to worry about that. So yeah, that's it. That's how simple it is to create a simple API endpoints using in Spring Boot using JDBC template and Postgres. Thank you for watching. Bye.